Today we have a very interesting topic, that is extortion as defined under section 383 of the Indian Penal Code. In Hindi, extortion is called Jabran Vasuli. If someone is taking something forcefully, then it is called extortion. So let us start that what is written under section 383 of the Indian Penal Code. As per section 383, whoever intentionally puts any person in fear of any injury to that person, so first and foremost thing you must keep in mind that it was done intentionally. That means this particular section contains actus reus and mens rea as well. So whoever intentionally put any person in fear of any injury to that person or to any other. So what does it mean? The extortion is applicable to the person who has been put into fear or to any other person in whom the person is interested. And number 2, and thereby dishonestly induces the person so put in fear. So here again he is dishonestly inducing the person. As we know, dishonestly has been defined under section 24 of the Indian Penal Code, and it shall be read with section 23 of the Indian Penal Code, where wrongful gain and wrongful loss has been defined. So he is dishonestly inducing the person so put in fear to deliver to any person any property or valuable security. So you must underline the term deliver to any person. So the person is not delivering the property who has given the threat, but to any other person or to that person. So it is not clear that to whom the property is being delivered. So it may be either property or valuable security or anything signed or sealed which may be converted into valuable security commits extortion. So now what we understood that what are the various ingredients of section 383. Number 1, whoever, that means the accused, puts any other person in fear of injury. So he is putting any other person into fear of injury to himself or any other person. So the person is putting into fear to that person or any other person in whom the person is interested. For example, the son, the wife, the mother, the father, anyone can it be. Number 2, dishonestly induces the person so put in fear, the second ingredient. And number 3, to deliver to any person any property. So here the property means movable property or immovable property, as we understood in section 22 of the Indian Penal Code, that what we called movable property and what we called immovable property. And number 2, any valuable security. So he is asking the person to deliver up anything which is a valuable security or anything signed or sealed which may be converted into valuable security. For example, a white paper signed with the person and sealed with the person, then it may be converted into valuable security. Now come to the point, put any person in fear of injury. This is the first point where we should explain that what does it mean put any person in fear of injury. So extortioner, the person, the accused, the wrongdoer, must put the person under fear of injury and thereby dishonestly induces that person to deliver up the property. Now the question is what we called fear. Fear of injury must be of a real nature, so as to unsettle the mind of the man upon whom it has been exercised. So what we understood, that the fear must be real in nature and it is unsettling the mind of the man upon whom it is exercised in such a way that the act does not remain voluntarily. Which act? The act of delivery of the property, that I already told you that deliver of the property or delivery of property is the most important term in this particular section. So the person is delivering the property and then that delivery of property is not a voluntary delivery. Point number 2, that what we call injury as defined under section 44 of the Indian Penal Code. that any harm caused illegally to any person in body, mind, reputation or property. So what does we understood that what we called injury, that it is a harm caused by one person and that harm was caused illegally by application of unlawful means, and that harm may be caused to the body, that harm may be caused to the mind, that harm may be caused to the reputation, or that harm may be caused to the property. So it is a very wider definition of injury and not only covered wound or hurt or any bodily injury, rather it includes the every tortious act. Even harm to the mind, harm to the reputation may also be included in the definition of injury. So what we understood, that illegality of harm is the gist of the section. What does it mean? If injury is not illegal, then no injury has been caused. What does it mean? There is no application of unlawful means, the injury was not illegal. Then in such a situation, even the injury is caused to the body, mind, reputation or property, it cannot be called as an injury as defined under section 44 of the Indian Penal Code. Let us take an example, the adultery. As we know, the adultery has been declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of India, but for the sake of example, we must take that injury may be caused to person through another person. What does it mean? The injury was not caused directly to the husband, rather it was indirect injury, but it is an injury in case of adultery. Or injury may be caused to the property, for example, the offense of theft as defined under section 378 of the Indian Penal Code, as we have studied. The threat under this section is nothing to do with the truth of the accusation. What does it mean? Even the false allegation may constitute the threat, may constitute an injury under this section. The guilt or the innocence of the party is immaterial. So, fear of injury is nothing to do with the truth of the accusation. For example, that suppose there is a police officer, if he said to B that if you will not give me rupees 5,000, then I will file an FIR against you or make a charge against you. This is a fit case of extortion because there is fear of injury, there is a threat on the part of the police officer to other person that if he will not give 5,000 rupees, then definitely FIR will be lost or he may be put into trouble. Now the second question is that to any person. What does it mean, this phrase to any person? It is not necessary that threat should be used and the property received by the same person. What does it mean? Threat may be given by one person and property may be received by other person. What does it mean? All the person who used the threat and to whom the property is delivered. You must understood, one person is using the threat and other person who is associated with that person is receiving the property. Both the person will be held liable under section 383 for the offense of extortion. Now come to the point, dishonest inducement and delivery of property. What does it mean? As we have already understood that what we call dishonest intention as defined under section 23 and 24 of the Indian Penal Code. So essence of this section is dishonest inducement plus obtaining the delivery in the consequence of such inducement. Now the question is what we call dishonest inducement. So we will study dishonest inducement with the help of section 24 and 23 of the Indian Penal Code. So as per section 24, in case of dishonest intention, there must be either wrongful loss or wrongful gain. So again in section 383 there may be wrongful loss and wrongful gain, but you must keep in mind there is dishonest inducement associated with the term obtaining delivery or deliver up of property in consequence of such inducement. What does it mean? There is wrongful loss to one person and wrongful gain to other person. So we must keep in mind, for constituting an offense under this section, there must be wrongful loss to one person and wrongful gain to other person. What does it mean? The person who is delivering the property under fear of injury, under fear of threat, is having wrongful loss, and the person who is gaining the property, illegally obtaining the property, is under wrongful gain. And that is the essential point in this section. Merely wrongful loss is not sufficient, or merely wrongful gain again is not sufficient, as or unlike we studied under section 378 of the Indian Penal Code, where either wrongful loss or wrongful gain may constitute an offense of theft, but in case of extortion, both must coexist, wrongful loss as well as wrongful gain, both must coexist, then only the offense of extortion will be constituted. Again, the point is what we call delivery of property. Person is delivering the property because he was put into fear. There is dishonestly inducement of delivering a property. So here the person has been put into fear, and therefore he is delivering up the property. So in this section, actual delivery of property is essential. What we understood? That there must be actual delivery of property. Extortion will not complete unless property has been delivered by the person so put in fear. What does it mean? If the person is not delivering of the property, then there is no extortion at all. For example, where a person so put in fear does not offer resistance to carry off of his property but does not deliver it, and therefore there is no extortion at all. We have a case called Jadu Nandan Singh vs. State of Bihar, decided by the Patna High Court in the year 1941. In this case, what happened? The property was not delivered by the victim but taken by the accused himself. You must keep in mind, see the very minute distinction, that what we call extortion. See, the property was not delivered by the victim but taken by the accused. It's a very slight deviation from the settled law. Thumb impression was taken by the accused himself, and therefore it is not a case of extortion. The thumb impression was taken by putting the person into fear, and the property was taken by the person and not delivered by the victim, and therefore it is not a extortion. Similarly, in another case, accused ties to the victim by the rope for putting his thumb impression. Then he puts thumb impression and delivered the property, and it was held that it is the fit case of extortion. Let us take another example. We have a case called Tanumal Udha Singh vs. Emperor that was decided by the Sindh High Court in the year 1949. In this case, what happened? The accused dishonestly induced the victim to deliver up the property. Otherwise, God will punish you. The accused said to the victim that you must deliver a property to me, otherwise God will punish you. Now the question is whether it is an offense of extortion or not. The question is whether it is extortion or not. It is not a question of extortion, or we can say it is not extortion at all, because injury by the God and not by human being. He was put into fear to be punished by the God and not by human being, and therefore it is not an extortion at all. Again, come to another phrase that is used under section injury to that person or any other person. What does it mean? That means if A having a girlfriend called B and A was threatened by C that you must deliver rupees 5,000. Otherwise, your girlfriend will be killed. It is a case of extortion because the threat is given to one person, but actually the threat was given to other person in whom the person was interested. So fear of injury may be given to one person or to any other in whom the person is interested. Now the question is what we call valuable security. The things delivered under section 383 may be any property, may be any valuable security, or anything that is signed or sealed which may be converted into valuable security. So for valuable security, we have a section called section number 30 of the Indian Penal Code that defines the term valuable security. As per section 30, the words valuable security denote a document which is or purports to be a document whereby any legal right is created. You must underline it, where any legal right is created, expended, transferred, restricted, extinguished, or released, or whereby any person acknowledges that he lies under legal liability or he has not certain legal right. So what we understood that any property, the person is asking to deliver up any property or any valuable security which may be signed or sealed or which may be converted into valuable security. So we already know that what we call sign, signature, or what we call seal. But the term valuable security as defined under section 30 of the Indian Penal Code, it is a document where legal right is created, where the legal right is extended, where the legal right is transferred. For example, the document of the house, the document of the property, the document of the land. So where the legal right is created, where the legal right is extended, or where the legal right is transferred by the same document, or restricted, or we can say the extinguished. Extinguish here means put an end, or released, or whereby any person acknowledges that he lies under legal liability. Someone is confessing that I lies under such legal liability, or if one person is saying that I have to pay rupees 10,000 to B, that means the person is acknowledging that he is under legal liability. So that may be called as valuable security, which if signed or sealed may be converted into valuable security. For example, a signature on the promissory note on which no date and no amount is mentioned, and if after signature over the promissory note, if he delivers it to someone else, then it is a case of extortion, or we can say extortion is committed. Now we have another term called sextortion. This is the new term, and it has also been included in Jammu and Kashmir Prevention of Corruption Act, and there is amendment took place last year in the year 2019 in the Jammu and Kashmir legislature, and it amended Ranbir Penal Code and Evidence Act of the Jammu and Kashmir. Now the question is what we call sextortion. The practice of extorting money or sexual favor from someone by threatening to reveal evidence of their sexual activity. So it's a very narrow definition of sextortion, but a wider definition of sextortion has been incorporated under Jammu and Kashmir Prevention of Corruption Act, where a person who is officer or head of any department, and if he is taking any sexual favor from his subordinate or her subordinate, then it is called a sextortion. In return of any promotion or any threat may be given by the officer, then it is called the offense of sextortion. But if the person is demanding money, for example, suppose the accused took a photograph of a naked body of a girl, and by compelling to put off her clothes and extorted money by threatening to publish the photograph, then we can say that he is the guilty of extortion, because he is asking the girl to put off her clothes and send him again the photographs, and also demanding money in lieu of the nagged photograph of the girl. Then it is called the extortion, and also it is called sextortion. Again, we may take another example. A police officer arrested another person, you may call it P, and refused to give bail unless rupees 500 is paid, and it is called extortion. Let me take another example. A obtains property from B by threatening him that your child is in the hands of any gang, is in the hands of the dacoit, and it is called extortion. Now come to a very important judgment decided by the Supreme Court of India in the year 1986, that is R.S. Nayak versus A.R. Antule and others. R.S. Nayak versus A.R. Antule and others. In this case, what was decided by the court, that fear of injury must be used or threat must be used. Under this section, it is written, the fear of injury or the threat must be used if a man does not promise to do a thing what he is legally bound to do. You must underline this particular line, that if a man does not promise to do a thing what he is legally bound to do. For example, suppose there is an officer or SDM of an office, and if he is having some duty to do, but he does not promise to do the thing, but he was legally bound to do that thing, he was legally bound to sign over the document, but he is not signing, or he is not promising to do. Or just reverse the situation, that he promised to do a thing what he is not legally bound to do, and he says he will not do unless he will be paid. So now the question is whether it can be called as extortion or not, because he promised to do something which he is not legally bound to do. For example, he is doing something beyond his purview, beyond his jurisdiction, beyond his power, and for which he is demanding money. So whether such an act may be called as extortion or not. So the Supreme Court held such act is not amount to extortion. What happened in this case? There was a chief minister called A.R. Antule. He asked the sugar corporations, sugar cooperatives, cooperative societies, and those cooperative societies files were pending before the government for the consideration, and he asked to the cooperative societies to make donation, and he promises to look into the matter. He promises to look into the file and to sign by the by him or some other officers. So in this case, the court held these cases does not constitute the offense under section 383, because he promises to do a thing which he is not legally bound to do, because it was beyond his jurisdiction, it was beyond his power, and therefore it shall not amount to the offense of extortion. Now come to the point, distinction between theft and extortion, as we have already studied the offense of theft as defined under section 378 of the Indian Penal Code, and the extortion as defined under section 383 of the Indian Penal Code. So we can distinguish between theft and extortion and on 3 points. Number 1, the consent. Number 2, the delivery of the property. And number 3, fear of injury or force used or threat used. So come to the point number 1, the consent. In case of theft, the person, the accused, takes property without consent, and in case of extortion, he obtains consent wrongfully. What does it mean? He wrongfully obtained the consent of the person just because of application of dishonest inducement and fear. Point number 2, delivery of a property. So in case of theft, the property is taken by the offender, and in case of extortion, the property is delivered to the offender. So it's a very important distinction between the theft and extortion, that in case of theft, the property is taken by the offender, and in case of extortion, the property is delivered to the offender by the victim. Now come to point number 3, that application of force or application of fear or threat. So in case of theft, no force or fear of injury is caused, or no force or fear of injury is used in taking of up the property. But in case of extortion, the property is obtained by intentionally putting in fear of injury to the person concerned or to any other person in whom the person is interested. And that is basically a distinction between the theft and extortion. Now, thank you very much. This is all about extortion as defined under section 383 of the Indian Penal Code.